Welcome to Big Questions. This is Cal Fussman, an old school guy showing you where the world is headed. I've been looking forward to this podcast for a long time now. It's going to stick a sword straight through the heart of the dystopian narrative that everybody's been fed over the last couple of years. That AI and robots are going to take all of our jobs and we're going to be left without work or a sense of purpose. I've been telling you for a while now not to get caught up in that narrative. I told you how the Hechinger report noted that we're going to have millions of jobs that we can't fill because we're not going to have enough qualified people to do them. And that we're looking at the largest labor shortage we've ever seen. Trust me, we got work to do. And this week, Kevin's here. Kevin Surace. Kevin is the father of the artificial assistant. He was Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year, a CNBC Top Innovator of the Decade, a World Economic Forum tech pioneer. He's got 90 worldwide patents. And on top of that, he's a Broadway and film producer. Oh, he also gives keynote speeches. And as Chief Creative Officer at Crew, I was delighted to have him on stage at one of our events. And now Kevin's got a book coming out called The Joy Success Cycle, the science-backed path to fulfillment and peak performance. A little more than 30 minutes from now, you are going to leave this podcast with a smile on your face.
I'm doing a podcast with Cal. That's going to be joyful.
Just listening to Kevin is going to make you excited about the future. Kevin doesn't talk about the elimination of 90,000 jobs due to AI that you've read or heard about recently in the news. He tells you about the 364,000 jobs that have AI in their title that we didn't have 3 years ago. He gives you examples of how the history of new technology repeatedly proves that it creates more jobs than it eliminates. Then he gives you examples of how this applies to your future. I'm just going straight to him so that you can be joyful. In fact, I'm going to cut our conversation at a point when it brings in music because I know how upsetting it is to many musicians when they hear about AI's entrance into their art and livelihood. I don't want anybody unhappy listening to today's podcast, so Kevin's musical thoughts will resurface at another time. Today, I just want you to be happy, ebullient, as happy as you'd be if your employer gave you a reward for your great work, a trip wherever you wanted to go in the world, planned by the white-gloved concierge team operated by my sponsor, Moments by Luxury Concierge Travel. I've talked with many people who've taken Moments trips, and believe me, they are the definition of joy. I'll tell you more about what Moments can do for you at the end of the podcast, even if your company hasn't rewarded you with a trip around the world. And this may very well make you happy too. So let's get this party started with one of the most joyous people you're ever going to meet, Kevin Surace. We're just talking before the record button got hit, and I was explaining to Kevin how he's the one that really shifted my opinion on all the technology, who told me to jump into the AI pool, and I did. And I've been splashing around ever since. Kevin, you'll be delighted to know that right now I am an AI.
By the way, you could be, and I would not know if you weren't.
Oh, no, this is me, but there is an AI Cal on a company site called UR.ai, and it's basically downloaded all the things I know about asking questions.
Yes.
And if you need to improve your questions, which you probably don't, you can always go there and I'll be happy to give you some advice. But as I was saying from the very outset, it was you who, in a podcast, I guess it was a couple of years ago, who just pointed out to me the march of technology through history and how AI is just in line with everything that's come before it. And
Absolutely.
the more I listened to you, the more I kept on looking at your posts and following. And here's my big question, because you are so behind this, and yet I have no idea what you were thinking while this dystopian narrative came up, and 3/4 of the country is not able to sleep at night because they think that all their jobs are going to be gone and they're going to be replaced by robots.
Well, then they need my book. Let me do a shameless plug. Clearly, they need more joy in their life. They came to the right place.
Oh, okay. And I was thinking I was going to allow you to do that plug a little later, so you get to do it twice. Okay?
Of course I do.
And you can hold it up a little longer next time. But first, can you just explain to me where this dystopian narrative came from, that we're all going to be replaced by robots and we're not going to have any work?
Okay, so remember, we've seen this story before, and that a lot of people won't remember. They may not be old enough, right? But when the PC arrived, by the way, before the PC, when computers first arrived, and you can, if you haven't watched Mad Men, it's back on HBO Max in 4K, so it's worth watching. There's a show from the early 2000s, and in Mad Men, near the last season, computers arrived, and they wheel this huge mainframe into this room that's cooled and everything, and everyone in the office is looking at it saying, we're all done. It's going to replace us. We're done. Okay, and that's approximately 1968 or 69 when that occurs, right? This IBM thing comes in. Later, we get desktop PCs. I was there, and people said, one, what do I do with it? And two, if it does everything that people say it's going to do, they're going to eliminate me because the computer will be able to compute without me, right? And then we got the internet and said, oh my God, all this information is at everybody's fingertips. And then we got email. We can just go down the line. Everybody says this every time. And every time, by the way, they say it's different. When Excel showed up in finance, I use this example all the time. Everyone in finance said that's the end of my job because I sit here with a pencil and I'm in ledger books and this is what I do, and I won't need to do that anymore. Yet we have more people in finance today than we ever have doing strategic things. Nobody's with a pencil and a ledger book. So AI does the same thing. No question AI is eliminating tasks, and it's going to wipe out certain job categories, just like the PC wiped out the secretary pool. Done. We never had a secretary pool again. By the way, I love the secretary pool. Much better than a PC. but it was gone, and we had to learn how to use the next tool. And AI is doing the same. There are, I think customer support is going to be challenged. Obviously, software QA. There are a number of jobs that the tasks are just better done by AI. That said, we're already seeing amazing outcomes in coders. So coders were the first to embrace AI, developers, and they watched AI help them code, and then they watched AI do all the code. And I talked to more companies today, couldn't say this 6 months ago, today, that say, my devs don't even look at the code that's being written by AI anymore. It's excellent. It compiles. It runs. I move to the next thing. And I say, did you eliminate any of your developers? Oh, no, we're hiring more. Well, tell me about that. Well, first of all, we're finally getting down the backlog of features and bug fixes that people have been demanding. We had a 6-year backlog. Now I'm starting to chew down the backlog. The second thing is, as we deliver more features faster at a lower cost, the demand goes up and people have even more requests faster, and we need more experienced developers to manage the AI to deliver those. So, in fact, hiring is going up. The other thing I said in my article, and I've been saying for a long time, is there's a macro environment thing that people forget about, which is right now, people are retiring from the workforce faster than they're coming into the workforce, and that's because people stopped having babies 20-something years ago. Like, we're not going to fix that, right? We can't fix that. And so whether you're a plumber or a coder or a manager, there are more of you leaving the workforce, hitting retirement age and wanting to retire or have enough money to retire, whatever the case is, than are coming in. Period, full stop. And we're talking about a decline that might be 20% over the next 10 plus years. 20%, which means if you want to double the revenue of your company, you can't double your employee base anymore. You're going to double the revenue of a company with 20% less employees than you have today, which means everyone needs to be about, call it 3 times more productive than they were last year. 300% more productive. Think about that. So all of this data says people may be doing different jobs, but there are going to be more jobs and more demand than there has ever been for people to do, to essentially be the robot overlords, to oversee what AI is doing.
I've been saying this to people, and you ran a LinkedIn post the other day that talked about, and this was from a research company that is from an ex-New York Times reporter. It's has no connections. It's just about facts. And it's just saying, look at this. Are we going to have enough people to fill all the roles in healthcare that are going to come up?
That's right. No.
No.
You better have some robots that are good at it, because otherwise we've got a problem, right?
It was across the board. This wasn't just plumbers, which everybody seems to think is the new job of the future.
It is. It's a great job because it's hard to replace that. It's hard to replace that with robots because of the infinite number of configurations in, house to house to house, right? It's hard. It's going to be very expensive. So plumbers, electricians, by the way, all of those are in incredible demand because we're building AI data centers. And each one employs some 3,000 construction workers, which includes plumbers, electricians, obviously construction people, right? And we're trying to build hundreds of these things. So we don't have that many workers to build them. The big stopper is not people. I mean, people are out, protesting against AI data centers, and I think they're on the wrong side of history with that. But the problem is, even if you get it approved, there's no one to build it. There's no contractors. And if you do take the contractors, you're going to take them away from anything they're doing with housing and everything else, because you need everyone in the area on the data center. It's the biggest build they've ever done. So it's a really fascinating time. There aren't enough people to do anything that we need.
At the same time, we're hearing a story that there's going to be no work for anybody.
Well, those people are wrong. That's. I was on a podcast the other day, and the guy says, well, there's all these people not just protesting data centers, they're out there protesting AI, saying, I'll never use it. I refuse to use it. It's bad for humanity, blah, blah, blah. And they said, what do you think about that? I said, well, they're on the wrong side of history. They're the Luddites. Do you know the Luddites are named after a group that in 1812 or so in France were coming in and smashing the machines and throwing shoes in the machines because they hated automation, and they said automation can't be here. They didn't win. We did automate the making of clothes and shoes, right? We ended up doing that 200 years ago. So the Luddites won't win this time either. Everybody should just get on board and in fact lead the parade.
I had a finance and geopolitical expert on the podcast. His name is Ozan Osgrau. And he was pointing out to me this K-shaped economy where the spine of the K remains vertical, but the two arms of the K, one goes up, one goes down. And He's saying that's the future. Everybody who's on that up side of the K is going to keep on going up. And if you basically turn away from everything you're talking about, you're on the downward slope.
You know, it's of course you've seen you saw my presentation a couple years ago
At
at
Crew.
Crew, right? Yeah, which is a great group. I highly recommend it. And even at the time, I would have this chart that said, "Here's you with AI, you're up here. Here's you without AI, your career's over."
Yeah.
And I will tell you, there's not a company in the country that I can think of, at least at the C level, where they would hire someone today that came in and said, "Well, I kind of dabbled a little bit in AI. I did." I'm going to hire the people who come in and say, in fact, I used it in, they're just graduating from college and they say, "Look, my professors told me not to use it, but I did everything with AI. I'm an expert. In fact, I know 5 tools you've never heard of." Hired. I just hired a really advanced kind of sales engineer at one of my companies, a cybersecurity company. We interviewed. We interviewed, we had over 100 candidates and we probably interviewed a dozen of them, right? And some were more experienced than others and everything. One came in and asked me a question. I interviewed the top 3 or 4 and said, "Kevin, I am a huge believer in AI. I want AI to do everything that we can make AI do. And so my question to you is, if I come there and head this position up, are you going to allow me to take the time and write AI agents to automate every single thing we do?" My answer was 2 words: "You're hired." No one else. I asked about it. Well, I've dabbled. I saw it one time. I played with it. I used chat at home, but right. I hired the guy who says, "I'm going to do AI everything." He came in and automated processes that should take 12 people to do in that team, and he's doing the whole thing. It's fully automated. It pushes this out in the morning and this out in the afternoon, and it updates the salespeople. And it's like, oh my goodness, it's unbelievable. So a person charged with AI, I mean, really supercharged, is the equivalent of 10, 20, 30 people. It's incredible.
Now, does this mean that it's creating so much more work that you have to hire other people?
Yes. So if you did everything that the AI tells us to do every day, so the agent comes out and it says to sales, "You got to contact all these things because here they're in the news and this is what happened. And I don't have enough salespeople to follow up on the stuff that AI is saying you got to do right now." Because AI is very good at this, and it's actually good at giving the humans a lot more work to do, which is not busy work; it's good work. So if I could hire more salespeople, I would. Then we're tapped out on budget on sales, right? So it is going to create more jobs because it's that whole set of AI agents now is creating more opportunity. It is actually creating more inbound leads than we ever would have had. More inbound demand, more ultimate demand. We've got customers who want to place $20 and $30 million orders at a company that has launched and is growing. But that's a big order, right? For anyone, that's a big order. And so AI is helping to do that in ways that we've never seen before. And that's going to make a larger company who needs more people. And it's hard to find good people. Why? Because 18 million are leaving the workforce in the next 5 or 6 years and only 14 coming in. That's another 4 million or 5 million shortage. And it's, this is very well documented.
Does it drive you crazy to see the headlines? Microsoft lays off another 10,000 people. Amazon lays off, and it becomes the national narrative.
Yeah, so people are negative, as you know. We talk about this in the book, right? People are naturally negative, and they're naturally drawn to negative news. No one wants to see the news that despite all those layoffs, by the way, 364,000 people with AI in the title, these are jobs that didn't exist, were hired in the last 3 years in the United States. 364,000 with AI in the title. The job didn't exist before 3 years ago. And yes, there were 80,000 laid off supposedly because of AI. But here's the truth, knowing the people at Microsoft. The truth is Microsoft has always run a pretty tight ship, and they use the old GE methodology of the bottom 10% have to go every year. Yeah, Jack Welch said that, and Microsoft took that on, and they still do. Many other companies do it as well. And so my view was they were just taking the bottom 10% out this year. They got to blame AI and say, well, AI is making up for the difference and whatever. Yes, you have some companies that said, I've wiped out my customer support organization because AI is doing all of that. Those people can get retrained because we need them doing other jobs. Answering the phone probably isn't it, right? That job, at least at tier 1 customer support, probably going away. So look, some of this is real, some of it isn't. Everybody's going to blame AI, but I can tell you in the smart companies, they're hiring more people who are doing AI because it's making them so much more productive. It's driving down the cost of delivering their goods and services, and that's what we want, which drives up demand, right? Drive down the cost of services, it drives up demand.
Which means you got to hire more.
You hire more. You got to hire more in different roles, but I need more salespeople. You know, here's the thing. Nobody places a $20 million order to an AI. They place it because they look you in the eyes and say, I'm going to give you this order. I trust you, Cal, right? I trust you, Kevin. That's what they do. So you still need people doing business with people because ultimately people make those decisions.
How did this idea to write a book about joy come to you for this particular moment? Were you gauging that there would be this reaction, this fear, this distance? Because there are a lot of people who are very reticent of AI. And I spoke with a group of scholars, high school scholars, when I was at the University of Missouri, and I asked them about AI, and there were many who were maintaining an arm's length from it. And they all had their reasons. And in that situation, I found myself talking like Kevin. And not only that, but I felt like I was the 22-year-old, or I'm sorry, even the 16-year-old in the room. And some of them were thinking like they were in their 60s. What I'm wondering was this anticipated in your mind when you decided to write this book about joy? Or did it just come about through some other means?
Well, sometimes you get lucky and get the timing right. Look, people have been asking me for a very long time, you know, why I behave the way I do, why I have so much joy, right? And so I began to write that down and then got serious about writing a book because I've been giving keynotes on this. You're familiar with my keynotes on AI, and of course those change every month because AI changes. But I've got another keynote, which is called the Joy Success Cycle. And it portends that joy comes before success, not after. And so you start with joy, and that will bring you more success, which will bring you more joy, which will bring you more success. And that's a cycle. But you start with joy. You don't start with success. I can guarantee you that not only is that true, but the science backs that up very clearly. And I have a whole chapter on the science and why that backs it up. But one of the inspirations for that was the actress Goldie Hawn, who I know really well. And Goldie had said one day, Kevin, is it just you and I that have high dopamine all the time? I said, well, you know, probably we don't have technically higher dopamine than others. So let's dig into this. What's causing that? What's causing it to even look like that? And that's where I sort of dug in and said, oh, I see. I take every task with joy. Like, oh, I'm doing a podcast with Cal. That's going to be joyful, right? Even if it's a podcast with someone I don't want to do, I go, well, what's the joy in this? What am I going to learn? What are they going to learn? How can I share ideas? Whatever it is, right? And so all of my tasks all day have a joy focus, right? Even if it's firing someone. And you're going to look at me and say, how do you fire someone with joy?
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. I've actually heard you say this before.
Yes. What I'm going to say, I know you know what I'm going to say, which is, look, it's not working out for them and it's not working out for us. And in the end, they will be in a better position 2 months from now, 3 months from now when they have a job. And we will be in a better position putting someone in there with the right skill set, right? Everyone wins. And when you enter it that way, I know at the moment they're not going to feel that way. Trust me, I've had people get up and want to throw something at me. I've had people actually throw things. But a few months later, they call back and they say, you know what? I'm in a better position. It fits the way I want to work or my skill set or whatever, right? And so, all these things work out in the end. And there's great joy in helping people get to their next thing. There is no way that any employer can hire everyone right. Maybe you get 70 or 80% right. That would be an incredible number, which means 20% have to go, right? So no matter what you do. So you better find joy in that too. You better find joy in sweeping the floor. You better find joy in every task. So I make my task list. Sometimes I write next to it, what's joyful about this? Just getting it done might be the point of joy, just to check it off the list, which I like to check things off the list. So much can be joyful. We also talk in the book about the joy killers. So joy killers, there's lots of joy killers. It could be someone at work. It could be people in your life. It could be something that's happening. It could be a lot of things. By the way, it could be a relative, right? And you have to bless these joy killers out of your life. You can't let them come into your life. You can't let them stay in your life. Now, we realize clearly, you go to the doctor, you get a cancer diagnosis. We're not saying you should live your life with joy at that moment in time. You need to deal with that. And there's death in the family, and I get that, right? So we're talking about the other 99% of your days, which are regular days. Those you have to run with maximum joy all day, and you're going to score yourself. So we have a concept called the positive quotient, and you want that at a 10. From 0 to 10, you want it at 10. Every time you complain about something, internal or external, oh, well, I don't like X, it takes you down a notch. All of a sudden, you got out of bed, you've complained 5 times, you didn't like the breakfast, you didn't like the coffee, you didn't like the tea, and your knees hurt, you're already at 0. How are you going to be your most successful when you're in the gutter? You're not. You're going to spend all day trying to get back out of the gutter. And when I say that, everybody goes, yeah, that's true. That's exactly what happens. You spend all your energy getting out of the gutter. When you're at a 10, you're spending all your energy advancing your career, advancing your relationships, advancing patents, whatever it is that you do, right? Advancing your show. But when you're in the gutter, you spend all your energy getting back out of the gutter. Oh, I got to lift myself up. I was really negative. This person said this to me. Oh, my goodness. So we cover all of this in the book. And then we gamify it even. And we say, listen, humans by our very nature worry about everything and are negative about most things. And the reason we are is because we're alive, and those that weren't 10 or 100,000 years ago are dead because they got eaten by a lion. And our relatives a long time ago, our ancestors were worrying about everything. They were worried they were going to be eaten, right? We don't have to worry about being eaten in general, right? We don't even have to worry about where our food comes from, right? There's a warehouse around the corner. It's called a grocery store. They have unlimited food, unlimited. Some of it's cheap, some of it's expensive, but it's unlimited. So we have to limit ourselves now from the normal person in the United States that has over 100 negative thoughts a day, 100 complaints a day. Most of them are internal, some are external. And if you get up tomorrow and start tracking, and you're a positive person, so for you it might be 12, it might be 50, I don't know. But the average person has 100. When you count them by the end of the day, you count them up, you're going to be shocked how negative. Oh, I didn't like what this person said. Oh, I don't like the way that happened. Oh, I didn't like this. Oh, my knees hurt. It's unbelievable.
I'm just thinking about that. Even if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, that gives you 16 hours while you're awake. And if you're having 100 negative thoughts, that's basically a thought every 10 minutes.
That's right. Oh, look what happened to this book. It fell over. I can't believe it. Who did that? Really? That's how you have to think about it, right? And we can just go down the line. It's about food. It's about people. It's about interactions. It's about some bill whatever. It's all these negative things that take you down. And maybe for some people it's 40. For some people it's 110, I know. But my goal, and we give you a process to do this, is a method book, right? It gives you a method to live your life in a brand new way. My goal for everyone who reads this book is to get yourself to 1 a day, and you limit yourself to 1. So if you get out of bed in the morning and you go, oh, my knees,
you're done. You're done.
Done for the day. You are done for the day. And at that point, you go, I can no longer complain about anything, internal or external, the entire day. The entire day. And you start to train yourself, and trust me, this actually works. You will train yourself to have no more than one a day. And many of the readers of the, kind of the drafts of this book got themselves a 0 a day, and they would call me and say, I'm so happy. It's been an entire day. I have 0 to complain about. I have 0. I have trained myself that none of these helps me go forward. None help you move forward. They all help you move backward. So stop doing it.
Now, when you were a kid, did you have only a limited number of negative thoughts, or did you have to modify your behavior?
Well, it's hard to remember as a kid. I was a joyful kid, and I did grow up in a household of mostly joy. But I'm sure, I had negatives, I had complaints, and I probably had that when I was younger. But over time, somehow, my nature was I determined that wasn't helping me move towards my whatever a pinnacle of success would be, however you measure that. Most people, we talk about this in the book, most people will measure that monetarily. That isn't always right for everyone. Some people it might be religion that calls them. It might be their family. It might be friends. Who knows how you measure your success? But whatever that is, once you understand it, then you have to say what gets me there the quickest and what gets me there the best and the deepest and everything else. And it is certainly not by complaining. It's such a negative burden on your mind. It takes you backwards. And so there's success out there and you go, oh, this sucks. Backwards. Oh, and now you're going to have to make up that time. So it's like going backwards in a car. It's like putting a car in reverse, right?
Wow, this is just like the K. It's basically either you're going up or you can complain and your whole joy just starts evaporating right
Exactly.
in front of you.
Where do you want to be on that K? Do you want to go up and to the right or down and to the right, right? And you don't want to go down and to the right, but everybody does. Everybody needs to realize they're normal. This is a normal thing, and humans naturally gravitate to negative headlines, and they naturally gravitate to complaining either internally or externally, but you can control this yourself. And once you realize I can control it, I actually don't even have to go there. I don't have to think about that at all. Once you realize that, it's a game changer.
As I told you, I cut off the conversation before Kevin got into music. I didn't want to rile up any musicians when AI comes into the conversation. I simply want everybody leaving today's episode feeling good. And that ties into my sponsor, Moments by Luxury Concierge Travel. Moments allows companies to reward the employees who do great work with a bucket list trip that they've always wanted. A white glove concierge team prepares these trips so meticulously that the people who receive them feel like they're celebrities. That's their words, not mine. And not long ago, I bumped into one of the winners, Emma Cook. It was always her dream to see elephants up close in their natural habitat. And her extraordinary work did earn her a trip to the Anantara Golden Triangle Elephant Camp and Resort in Thailand. His trip was described in loving detail in a short story set in the Big Questions episode entitled, You Are Stronger Than Steel. That's the June 30th, 2026 episode if you're listening to the audio version. Emma's trip allowed her to hang with the elephants and even stay in a jungle bubble that gives a clear view of the elephants while sumptuous meals are delivered to you. It isn't only Emma who loved it. This resort ranked as the #1 hotel in its area on TripAdvisor with around 1,700 reviews. When people heard Emma talk about her experience, they called her up and asked her if they'd recommend that they go to the resort too. Absolutely, Emma said. And she checked with Moments and asked if it would be okay if Moments could book the trip for them. Moments said yes. Now, you'd still have to pay for it, but you're going to get all the amenities and perks that only A moment's trip delivers. So, if you want to plan your vacation through Moments, go to momentsbylct.com, momentsbylct.com. You'll see why so many people who've had a moment's trip can't book their next vacation any other way. I hope that made you happy. Cheers!